Hello and welcome. It's day 7 of our Inktober Tangle journey. My name is Martha and I am here to guide you step by step through the Rambles tangle. We are going to ease into this tangle with a simple approach, and then we'll move on to one that's a little bit more complex. To begin the simple version, I'm going to be using a small bijou tile. I'm going to use a black Pigma Micron 01 pin to draw this very curvy line from one corner to the opposite corner. So I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to draw what looks like a ribbon. And I'm starting on one side, and then when I get to the other, I'm going to drop down. So I'm starting underneath, drawing a parallel line to my curve, and then dropping down. Starting underneath, drawing a parallel line, and then dropping down. And then starting beneath where I just stopped, drawing a parallel line, and then dropping down. I'm now going to draw inside each of these spaces 2 more lines. So one that mimics the left and one that mimics the right. So I'm just drawing a parallel line to that outside edge, and then another line mimicking that other outside edge. And just this little detail is a lovely addition to kind of add a little bit more to this ribbon-like tangle. Next, I'm going to come in and draw a series of little orbs, and I'm going to start to fill them in, but I'm going to leave the center white. So I'm adding these orbs on both sides of this ribbon. Just add a little bit more texture. There's something about this that reminds me of a candy that I ate when I was a kid in the 80s. And I don't remember exactly what they were called, but just like little dots of candy, little dots of sugar that were on these paper strips. Just something about this tangle reminds me of that. I'm sure it was just pure sugar that I was consuming. I'm now going to come in with the graphite pencil and start to add some graphite here, and I'm doing it underneath the folds of the ribbon. So just a little bit of shadow here to really give that three-dimensional effect of this ribbon folding back and forth. And there we go. There we have a simple version of the Rambles tangle. I'm going to go ahead and label everything on the back just in case I need to reference it sometime in the future. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the more complex version. I'm using a Renaissance tile and a Pigma Micron 01 pin in black. And I'm starting with an orb in the middle. And then I'm actually going to begin with a different tangle called Spoken. And this is a tangle also created by Zentangle Inc. So what I'm doing is I am taking off from that middle orb, and I'm drawing a slightly curved line out to the edge. and I'm going to do 5 of those curved lines. I'm now going to come in and add the Rambles tangle. So I'm going to start also at that orb, and I'm going to draw that very curvy line. That's the first step of the Rambles tangle, and I'm going to draw that from the orb. And I'm just going back and forth between the lines of the spoken tangle that I put down first. So starting at the orb, back and forth and back and forth. I'm going to go all the way out to the edge of this tile. So I've zoomed in here so you can see a little closer. This is probably the most challenging part of this tangle, is creating the actual ribbon. And so what I'm doing is I'm starting underneath the line, drawing a parallel to the line below it, and then dropping. So let's see this next one. So I'm starting, drawing parallel, and then dropping. Sometimes I forget to do that top one. All right, so I'm drawing parallel and then dropping down, drawing across parallel, dropping down, drawing down, parallel, and then dropping down, parallel, and then for that end, I'm just connecting it. So now we're starting to see a bunch of these kind of ribbon shapes coming through. Please don't hesitate to press pause here and just take your time finishing up all your ribbons. So now I want to revisit the spoken tangle that I began this tile with, and I want to take those lines and turn them into shapes. So I'm starting at the end of the line, and then I'm drawing back towards the orb. And you can see why it gets that name spoken, because it kind of looks like spokes on a tire. So now what I'm doing is looking for some empty space, and I want to see if I can add some more of the spoken tangle to fill in those empty areas. So I'm starting close to the edge, and I'm just drawing a curved line, picking up my pen where the Rambles tangle is, and then going back to the end and drawing another curved line. I'm going to do the same thing in each area that already has a spoken spoke, if you will. Pretty quickly, when I started to add these additional spokes, this tangle started to kind of take on a new feel, a new vibe, and for me, it started to go into very much a more organic Zentangle, and I started to feel like maybe this was some sort of sea creature floating through the ocean. And in some of the areas, I'm actually going to add 3 of these spoke shapes. Just depends on what kind of space you have, or I guess however many you want to add. There's no right or wrong. Just kind of curving them in different directions as I go. Again, that helps give it a more organic feel. Alright, so I'm going to start to add some more details here. I'm going to go in and fill in that orb a little bit and make the outside edge heavier. And then I'm also going to go in and add those curved lines that are parallel to the edge of this Rambles tangle. And I'm going to draw those in, those stripes on each edge. And you'll be turning your tile a lot on this tangle with all the curves of that Rambles tangle. So just take your time and enjoy this moment. Okay, so I have switched to a brown pen, still the 01 size, and I'm going to use it to add the dots that are going to run down the center of this ribbon. I just thought some variation in color would look really nice. Again, please don't hesitate to push pause and take your time filling up all of these ribbons with these orbs. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit of brown ink here to that center orb, just to kind of pull it together. And then I'm going to start adding orbs close to the center, and I'm just going to squish them all in here. So fill in any kind of spaces you have between the spoken and the Rambles tangle with some orbs. And I'm using my brown pen just to have some variation in color, and I'm just going to keep these kind of squished orbs, bunched orbs, close to the center of the tile. Alright, now that I have filled in this center area, I'm going to start to draw some that are maybe floating away. It's giving sea anemone vibes right now, so maybe this is part of our little creature that's, and parts are floating away, or maybe these are air bubbles that are floating away from something that's breathing here. But I'm just kind of filling up the empty space of the tile with these little orbs. I'm now going to go in with the brown pen and fill in the spaces between these orbs with some ink. And just have some variation in dark and light areas by just adding a little bit more of this ink here. I've decided to color in the spokes. So originally they were drawn with black ink, but I'm going to fill them in with this brown ink just to have a little bit more color. You could choose not to do this if you wanted to leave them empty, but I'm also, when I'm coloring them in, I'm leaving them pretty gestural. I'm not filling them in completely with solid ink, so a little bit more loose in my coloring. I'm now switching to a third pen, so I'm going to use my number 10 white jelly roll pen, and I'm going to fill in a few of these spokes with this white ink. So we've got some with the brown and some with the white. I'm also going to fill in the edges of these ribbons with the white ink. I want to just pull each of the tangles in together by way of color. So the spoken tangle has brown, white, and black, and then the Rambles tangle also has those 3 ink colors. I'm coloring in the orbs that are on the Rambles tangle on the ribbons with solid ink, just to add a little bit more darkness. Even though there's a lot going on, there's still a lot of that tile color showing. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Oh, looks like I forgot one. You always see a few that you miss. I had to go back and get that done, or I would probably forget a second time. Alright, so I'm filling in the last of these orbs with this brown ink. For shading, I'm going to take the graphite pencil, and I'm coming in just adding a little bit of graphite underneath the curves of the Rambles tangle, underneath the curves of the ribbon as it's folding. Just a few little areas. And I'm just going to blend that into the paper with my tortillon, just kind of soften up that graphite. I'm also going to add some graphite around this center orb, just going around it in kind of a circular motion, just going on top of any of the ink that's nearby and then just blending it in. I'm also going to add some graphite underneath the Rambles ribbon, and just, I'm not sure why I made that circular motion, what I was thinking about at the time. I do voiceovers after I've recorded the videos, and so I don't always remember, because I'm doing voiceovers sometimes the day after or a few days after recording. Anyway, I'm just, oh, I think I know. I'm adding some graphite not only underneath the Rambles ribbon, but I'm also kind of adding it around all the central orbs there. So, there's this tiny orb at the very middle, and then there's this kind of larger circular form that was created when all those brown orbs were drawn in the center part of this. I think it's a sea creature, but you all might have some other ideas. So I'm just going back in now with the tortillon and just blending that all in and just kind of softening it all up. Yeah, so that graphite around those orbs really kind of helps it glow. I'm going in now and I'm adding some white ink to a few of these orbs. Not everyone, but just a few, just to add some variation. And there we have it. I think we are done. We've added quite a lot to this one. So started out with the spoken tangle and then added the Rambles tangle between it. So now they're kind of intertwined, but just a different variation of the Rambles tangle. Gonna go ahead and label this. I added my chop a minute ago, and now I'm labeling the back. Day 7, Rambles Tangle. Thank you again for joining me. I hope today's practice inspired you, and I will see you tomorrow for day 8. Thanks, and have a good one.